Okay, imagine this. You've been studying for months, maybe even years, to get into this one elite medical school.
Right.
You know the exam inside and out. You know the goal is to get the maximum score, which is 120 points. That's your ticket.
Mm-hmm.
And then just like that, the university announces this complete overhaul. And that same test, it's now worth 960 points.
That kind of jump, it's exactly what we're getting into today. We are doing a deep dive into the massive, and I should say permanent, restructuring of the Humanitas University Medical School entrance exam.
The HUMAT.
The HUMAT, exactly. And this is for the 2026 cycle. So, this isn't some temporary thing. They are fundamentally re-engineering who they're looking for.
And Humanitas is a big deal. It's near Milan. It's got these incredible international rankings. So for them to just throw out the old playbook, well, that's what we're here to dissect. What does this actually mean for you, the applicant?
It's not just one or two small changes. It really boils down to five. Five absolutely critical shifts that completely redefine the exam.
Okay, so let's do a quick flyby. What are the five?
First, the number of subjects. It jumps from just 2 very specialized subjects to 6, a much broader scope.
And second, as we just said, the score explodes. 120 points becomes 960.
Then third, and this is a really strategic move, they've integrated this one exam with the test for their medtech school.
The double degree with Politecnico di Milano.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
Fourth, uniform scoring is gone. A correct answer in one section can be worth more than double an answer in another.
So strategy becomes everything.
Paramount. And that leads to the 5th point, which to me is the most fascinating. The weightings are completely different for the medical school versus the MDiv tech school.
Even though it's the same test.
Identical questions. It forces you to make a choice before you even start studying.
Wow. Okay, let's unpack that first one then. The huge expansion from 2 subjects to 6. Before this, up to 2025, the exam was, well, it was incredibly focused.
Incredibly, it was almost entirely on just 2 things: scientific thinking and academic literacy. That was the whole game.
And that really shaped the kind of applicants they got, didn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It created this very specific pool. You'd see applicants who were, just brilliant in English. Maybe they'd lived abroad or they were at a C1, C2 level, and they were great at critical thinking.
So it was actually an option for people who weren't your typical STEM prodigies.
Exactly. I mean, you could be a liberal arts student or even a professional going back to school. If you were weaker in high school science but strong in logic and language, Humanitas was a real, viable pathway. It was unique in Italy.
But that pathway, it's basically gone now.
It's gone. The new 2026 exam demands comprehensive STEM knowledge. The subject list now includes biology, chemistry, physics, and mathematics alongside the original 2.
So they're aligning more with the national IMAT exam.
And with other top private med schools, yes. The message is pretty clear. They're upping the scientific rigor.
So how does the question breakdown work now? Did they just add more questions?
No, and this is a key detail. They balanced it. The old system had 30 questions for each of the 2 subjects. Now, each of the 6 subjects gets 10 questions.
Okay, so the breadth of knowledge you need has exploded, which definitely makes it harder.
No doubt. The preparation is it's a much bigger task. But there is a bit of a silver lining in there for the student.
A silver lining. It sounds like just more work to me.
Well, think about it. In the old system, if you were weak in, say, scientific thinking, that was half the exam, 30 questions, your score would be destroyed.
Right. A single weak spot could sink you.
Exactly. Now, your risk is spread out over 6 fields. So if physics isn't your absolute best subject, you can potentially make up those points by doing really well in biology and chemistry. It mitigates the risk of a catastrophic failure.
I see. So it forces you to be well-rounded, but it also protects you from having one single fatal flaw.
Precisely. And that shift brings us right to the strategic heart of all this, the medtech factor.
This is where it gets really interesting.
This is where it gets, I think, either brilliant or ruthless, depending on how you look at it. From 2026, the 2 exams, medical school and medtech, are one and the same.
Same subjects, same number of questions.
Same date, same everything. It's a unified test.
So if they're adding all these STEM subjects anyway, why not just score them the same for everyone? Why create this complicated dual scoring system?
Well, efficiency is one reason, but the bigger one is targeted recruitment. They're using a single test to measure 6 skills, but then they apply 2 totally different lenses to the results.
To find 2 very different types of students.
Fundamentally different. And that differential weighting is how they do it.
Okay, walk me through the numbers here, because this really shows what skills they value for each program.
It's crystal clear. For the main Humanitas medical school, the English course, the heaviest weight is still on scientific thinking and academic literacy.
So they still want the critical thinkers.
They want the critical thinkers, the communicators. But for the medtech school, the biomedical engineering track, the priority flips completely.
To math and physics.
All the way, the
Yeah.
hard technical skills. Let's break it down into sections. Think of it as Section A for scientific thinking and literacy, Section B for bio and chem, and Section C for math and physics.
Okay.
For a medical school applicant, one correct answer in Section A gets you a massive 22 points.
22.
22. That one section alone is worth 440 points out of 960. It's almost half the exam.
That is... Wow. But now, what if I'm a medtech applicant answering that exact same question?
You only get 10 points.
10. So it's worth less than half.
Instantly. They are explicitly telling future doctors that critical reading is worth more than double what it's worth to future engineers.
And I assume it inverts for the math and physics section.
A perfect mirror image. For the med school applicant, a correct answer in Section C, math or physics, gets you just 10 points. It's their lowest value section.
But for the medtech applicant?
That same correct answer is suddenly worth 22 points. That section jumps from a 200-point max to a 440-point max.
So biology and chemistry must be the common ground.
They are. Section B is the constant. 16 points per correct answer no matter which program you choose. Those are the non-negotiable prerequisites for both.
This forces you to almost declare your identity before you even study.
Yeah.
Are you the analyst or are you the engineer?
100%. Your whole study plan has to be built around this. If you're applying to the med school, dropping points in Section A is just... it's catastrophic. You can't make up that ground in the 10-point sections.
Which brings us to the new score, the 960 points, and how you manage the risk. Because it's not just about getting points, it's about not losing them.
Exactly. The negative marking has always been there, but the stakes are so much higher now. When a correct answer is worth plus 22, the penalty for being wrong is crippling.
Okay, let's get specific on the penalty for the medical school track. In Section A, it's plus 22 for correct, but what's the loss?
It's minus 5.5 points for an incorrect answer.
That's a 25% penalty. That is brutal.
It is. And think about what that means. You answer one question right in that section, you get your 22 points. But then you guess on 4 others and get them wrong. Your net score for those 5 questions is 0.
You've completely wiped out your correct answer.
Just by making 4 bad guesses, the psychological pressure is immense. It totally changes how you approach a question you're not sure about.
And what about the other sections?
Section B, bio and chem. It's plus 16 for correct and minus 4.0 for incorrect. Still very significant. And even Section C, the lowest for med school, is plus 10 correct, but minus 2.5 for incorrect.
So there's no safe place to guess. The message is, dropping points in those top 2 sections is exponentially worse than it's ever been.
It is. But that's not even the only risk. We have to talk about the mandatory cutoffs.
Oh, right. So you need a minimum score in each section.
In each section. It doesn't matter if your total score is incredible. If you fail one section, you're out.
So you could score, say, 900 points overall, but if you completely bomb one category, you fail the whole exam.
That's it. For the med school track, the cutoff for Section A is 88 points. For Section B, it's 64. And even for the lowest value section, math and physics, you still need to get 40 points.
That's critical. So you can't just be a brilliant essayist who ignores math. You have to be competent everywhere.
It guarantees a baseline competency across all 6 fields. You simply cannot afford to throw away a subject, even if you're focusing your main effort on those high-value 22-point questions.
So with all these changes, the expanded subjects, the crazy scoring, the high penalties, what does this do to the actual difficulty of getting in?
Well, the test itself is objectively harder. The sheer amount of knowledge required is much greater. But the difficulty of gaining admission, that's the big unknown.
How so?
The new STEM focus might scare off some of the old applicant pool, the non-traditional ones, that could, in theory, reduce the competition.
I don't know. I'd argue the opposite. Now it's a perfect backup option for all the top STEM students who are already studying for the IMAT.
That's the much more likely scenario, I agree. It opens the door to a whole new and probably more competitive group of applicants, which is why the advice is to be really conservative with your target score.
Okay, so what is the new magic number?
Yeah.
In this 960-point world, what should people be aiming for?
The recommendation is to aim for 800 out of 960.
800. That's over 80%. That sounds incredibly high.
It is, but it's about building a strategic buffer. If you're consistently hitting 800 in your practice tests, it means that on the real exam day, even with nerves or a few unexpectedly hard questions, you should still land somewhere around 70%.
Which is likely to be a very safe score for getting in.
Exactly. It gives you a cushion against the unknown.
So let's break that down strategically. If I'm aiming for the med school, I need to absolutely crush Section A and Section B. That's 440 plus 320. That's 760 points right there.
That is the core of your strategy. You max out the high-value section,
And if I do that, I only need 40 points from the math and physics section to hit my 800 target.
which, not coincidentally, is the exact minimum cutoff score for that section.
I see. So you aim for excellence, where it's worth 22 points, and you
Yeah.
aim for solid competence, where it's worth 10, just enough to clear the hurdle.
That's the game plan. It's a very targeted approach.
So what does this mean for how you should study? You can't just cram for this anymore.
Absolutely not. The advice is pretty clear. First, you cannot neglect any subject. Every single one has to be studied to meet those cutoffs. The throwaway mindset is dead.
Makes sense. What's next?
Second, it's about mastering patterns, not just memorizing facts. The questions, especially the scientific thinking ones, are about applying knowledge.
So lots of practice problems.
A ton of practice problems. That's the third point.
Yes.
You need to be doing exercises constantly to build that pattern recognition.
The sources also had a specific warning about using, like, AI tutors or general study guides.
They did. And the warning is basically that generic tools might not know the specific types of problems that humanities loves to ask. You could end up with a very uneven knowledge base.
Like, you might know a lot of biology, but not the specific complex geometry pattern that always shows up and could cost you that 40-point cutoff in math.
Precisely. You need targeted specialist prep that understands the university's specific quirks and priorities.
Okay, so to sum this all up, the 2026 HUMAT is a completely different beast. It's moved from this niche test for literacy experts to a broad, tough, STEM-focused exam where strategy is everything.
That's it. And the key takeaway for you, the listener, has to be that your preparation needs to be just as strategic as the test itself. With weightings this lopsided, 440 points here, 200 there, you have to design a study plan that ruthlessly targets the highest value sections.
While making sure you don't fail the minimums anywhere else,
That's the balance.
it leaves me with one final thought. This inverse scoring system, it's so unique. They're using a single test to find two different kinds of minds. High literacy for doctors, high math for engineers. How is that going to shape the actual student bodies, the very DNA of the classes entering Humanitas and MedTech from 2026 onward?
It's a fascinating experiment in academic engineering, really. It ensures that every single person who gets in has proven they're aligned with what that specific program values most, all without the cost of running two separate exams.
Something to think about while you start aiming for that 800 out of 960.